Hey everyone, welcome back to Two Witches Talking.
Hello.
Hope everyone's doing well. How are you doing, Megan?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good. Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today.
I know, me too. And this was your idea. And as soon as you texted me with it, I was just like, yes, hell yes, let's do this.
Yes, and because it was my idea, I did research.
I love it. I did zero research this week. I did all the research last week, so.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. I was like, maybe this doesn't have to be the way it is all the time, but like, you came up with an idea and then you ended up bringing research, and I was like, so this idea came to me during meditation. I don't think I told you that either.
No.
Yeah. So I literally just sat in meditation one morning, and I was like, I just opened myself up,
Yeah.
And like this idea popped in, and I was like, that's a great idea. I don't want to talk about it on my own podcast. Like,
Yeah.
like it would be boring just
Right.
like talking about it. So I was like, this is an idea for Megan and I. Yes.
Love it. It's so good.
What we're going to be talking about today is the resurgence of witchcraft, paganism, whatever, how it's growing in numbers right now, and why we think it's growing in numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So.
Such a juicy topic. So amazing. I'm excited. So yeah, you want to kick us off since you got your pages of research?
I do. I have research.
Exciting.
I'm so excited. And for those of you who are listening, you really miss out not watching it. We're going to give you good stuff just, orally or audibly, I guess. Audibly. There you
Audibly.
go.
Audibly.
But the facial expressions and everything are great here too.
They're priceless.
So. Okay. So I do have statistics. Okay,
cool.
And what is really fun is when I was diving into all of the good juicy stuff behind this, a lot of the information comes from the Catholic World Report, and I love it.
Interesting, yeah.
They have admitted in the last, I think the articles were from like 2018, that people are switching over to paganism, and like there's valid reasons why. And I'm like, you go, Catholic Church. That's how self-aware, at least when it comes to that, at least. So basically, back in 1990, approximately 8,000 people claimed to be Wiccans or pagans. Okay. Then it went to 340,000 in 2008. And now we are looking at between 1 and 1.5 million people claim to be or identify as witches, pagans, everything. And that was the number in 2018. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So major resurgence. I know that just to play devil's advocate early on, I understand that reporting and data was not what it was in 1990 versus 2018. But I don't know that you can account for a growth of 8,000 to 1.5 million.
Yeah.
For just like not having accurate reporting standards.
I don't think so. Yeah. And it does seem like something that like the Catholic Church would want to be aware of.
Yes.
So that's an incredible jump.
Yeah. So
oh my God.
A lot of it they think, or just to give you some more numbers too, this is from pewresearch.org, which is like PEW. So the General Social Survey was started to start collecting information. And basically, in 1972, 90% of the people surveyed identified as Christian.
Okay.
And only 5% identified as like unaffiliated. Okay.
Yeah.
So in 2007, that number went from 70. So in 2007, 78% of people identified as Christian. So we've already seen, it used to be 90, then it was 78%. That has fallen to 63% in 2021.
Wow. Okay.
Whereas the atheist, agnostic, unaffiliated, nothing in particular, whatever, went from 16% in 2007 to 29% in 2021.
Wow.
And
okay.
this was the one that was just 5% in 1972.
Yeah.
So basically they're saying, and the Catholic World Report also kind of took some of this into consideration. They're saying that people are basically leaving Christianity and moving either into agnostic, curious, atheist, or paganism.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, and a lot of places too, just to kind of get all the stats out and then we can just talk.
I love it.
In a December 2024 article, this is from Australia. Australia has seen an absolutely massive explosion.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So this is from news.com.au. They're seeing a massive explosion of witchcraft in Australia. They're citing social media, the internet, and pop culture. So like TV shows, movies that are depicting witches a lot more.
Yeah.
They are also citing corruption within organized religion as a major influence. And then in an article from celebratepaganholidays.com that was updated in August of 2024, Europe has also seen a massive explosion. In England and Wales, in the 2021 census, they went from 17,000 people who identified as pagan in 2011 to 74,000.
Wow.
In 10 years. So 17 to 74,000.
Yeah.
They also cited a lot of what you can see, because a lot of people aren't going to either answer surveys or maybe they're not going to answer. They'll just answer like unaffiliated instead of like pagan.
Right.
So a lot of the metrics now being used to cite this resurgence or this, how paganism is growing, is based on sales online.
Okay. Yeah.
Was it last year or year before last? No, this was updated in 2024. Psychic services online is a $2.2 billion a year industry.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And
dang.
It's growing every year by 2.6%. And any kind of occult, like we're all kind of grouped under psychic services for the moment. And then a lot of this celebratepaganholidays.com also cited a lot of the reasoning on the surveys is because of the rise in the LGBTQ plus community. They don't feel safe in churches.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're starting to pull away from organized religion. They're starting to pull away from churches, from Christianity. And they want to get back to nature. That was one of the things credited in the Catholic World Report. And the rise in feminism was also credited.
Yeah.
So these are all of the nerdy sources for why people are thinking that this is happening. So that's all my statistics. And now we can talk about what you and I think.
Oh my gosh, I love it. That's so cool. Yeah, I've definitely seen a few trends like on TikTok and, YouTube and all that. And as soon as you mentioned this topic, I immediately thought about a couple of people that I've come across, and I cannot remember their names, but they are secular spiritual leaders or therapists or, counselors, that sort of thing. And so they are taking the religion out of spirituality and really helping people to tap into universal energy and all of that in a more secular way. And so I'm seeing that, obviously seeing the resurgence or, people discovering witchcraft for the first time. And just like, I think this is a way for folks to not only like explore themselves and their spirituality, but also to have a little sovereignty in the relationship with spirit.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I do. And I have to have the conversation all the time. So I'm the only, I would say I'm the only spiritual person in my household, even though my daughter doesn't live with us anymore, but, you know, she's still considered part of the household. So
Sure.
I have to have the conversation a lot with them of like, you know, we raised our children non-denominational, period, you know, and if they had questions, you know, and we answered them, and we had them do everything. So they've been to church, you know, they've done pagan-y rituals with me and everything. But I tell them all the time, like, I'm not a religious person at all. There's a fine line, and there is a distinction that I think a lot of people are finally understanding, because I've always said it. I am not a religious person. Now, spiritual, I ooze that all day long. You know? I am extremely devout in my belief system. I am very devout in my spirituality. But when people, oh, are you religious? No.
Well, what was so interesting is I brought my son up in a similar way, and he definitely had like his kind of atheist moment, and then his agnostic moment, and now he works with Hades and Dionysus, and, you know, has worked with Aphrodite in the past, all that. So it's just kind of fun to see that kind of roll around. But what I think is so interesting is that he is a member of the LGBTQ plus community, and that whole idea of, you know, church not being a safe place for people is really pervasive. And one of these influencers that I was following was talking about a religion based on love, and talking about how, you know, you love your neighbor, you take care of each other, you welcome people into your home, you know, all this stuff. And she reposted a comment and spoke more on it that said, wow, you had me like I was all in, and then you said Christianity, and I can't even make that work in my head. And I think that there's a lot of criticism, like warranted criticism of the modern day Christian church, where it's like, wait, this is a belief system and a religion based on love and taking care of each other and acceptance. And what it has changed into is a place of intolerance, where the doors aren't open, where, you know, in some places, if you're not white and completely straight, you just are not welcome. And I think that, you know, so witchcraft by itself being a secular practice and allowing space for any sort of religious or spiritual practice on top of it or with it allows people that place where they're accepted and loved and taken care of and supported. You know, because there's some really good sides of witch talk. And if you find your niche and your little online coven, it's just perfect.
Yeah. And that reminds me of something that my God, I think I had to have read it 20 years ago. And that is, there are a lot like it within the pagan community. And I guess maybe just to kind of back up a little bit for those who may find this and who are, because this might be a topic that people are like secretly Googling, and then they end up on our podcast, you know?
Yeah.
So paganism is like the big umbrella. Like that's any kind of like earth-centered religion or belief system, whatever. Like that's paganism. And then under it, you have like little tiny umbrellas. So like there's witchcraft, which is a practice. And technically that's just a practice. It doesn't really have any religious, or it doesn't have any deities associated with witchcraft. So you can be a witch in anything. Like, but then you have Wicca, and Wicca does weave witchcraft with deities. So you kind of have like, that would be a religion. And that's actually a recognized religion too, I believe. Yeah. So you have, but so like, I'm just going to say like pagans, because not all witches, not all pagans are witches.
Right.
But I would say all witches, well, no, because you can have a Christian witch technically.
Yeah.
You can have a Hindu witch. You could have a Muslim witch. So that's because it's a practice. So that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm just gonna say like paganism. We're just gonna go with like the big umbrella at the top. But I was reading something about how within paganism, there is a very large LGBTQ plus community. And I loved the reasoning behind whatever I was reading. And that was this. So many religions in the world they're all male dominated. I could probably say all,
all the major ones are. Yeah.
Mainstream. Yes.
Yeah.
Male dominated. Okay. And in fact, a lot of them, most of them don't even acknowledge a female aspect at all. And LGBTQ plus have integrated male and female within themselves on a level that a lot of people, especially straight people, haven't. Because we were just, like you're born male or you're born female, and this is how you identify for your entire life. So you almost, especially within like Christianity, Muslim, all of that, you deny anything other than masculine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's where, and this was, like I said, this was an article I read probably 20 years ago, or it was in a book that I read. And so in paganism, people that are embracing both their divine masculine and their divine feminine, they're more balanced. And then they come into paganism. And here we are, most pagans are like, okay, there's a divine masculine and a divine feminine. However you choose to define that is fine. But we recognize the balance needed. And the LGBTQ, they're already there.
Yeah.
So they just kind of come in, and they're like, we're like, yeah, no, we're trying to get almost where you are as far as energetically speaking, trying to blend or at least acknowledge the masculine and the feminine that lies within every single person. And that's a huge part of, at least for me, coming into paganism, reading about there's gods and goddesses. I was like, oh, thank God. Okay, I'm home.
Sure.
Because I cannot do this Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Like, there's 3 men. Oh, Lord. Like, I can't do that.
And depending on where you're at, like, sometimes they're all the same entity, but it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and what I love about that too is that there is a beautiful spectrum in a pagan approach to spirituality, right? Where it's like, one day you're working with the goddess, another day you're working with a god, and other times you're working with a whole group of them, or maybe an entity that is beyond gender, right? And so there's, with organized religion, there's like this box, and I could go on and on about my religious trauma. I will not do that here, but oh my gosh. And, there's this lane that you have to stay into, right? And a lot of it is very gender based, where it's like women do this, men do this, and there's only 2 genders and blah, 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 all that mess. And then like you come into paganism, and now I know that Wicca will have like more like set ways to do things. However, it's like you can come in and you can perform your rituals, and you can live with the seasons, and you can work with deities, and you have a lot of say in what that looks like. And you can change over time without without turning your back on yourself, really. Like, it's just, you can evolve with it. And I think that's a big appeal.
And they teach a lot too, and not to just sit here like and absolutely bash Christianity, but I think the majority of people that are finding witchcraft or that have come to witchcraft and paganism come from a Christian background. I mean, the numbers support it,
Yeah.
So it's one of those things too, like in another thing I had a problem with was, you have to pray, like you have a problem. So let me get down on my knees and pray to a very, very busy deity, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
can you imagine?
And like get put into a queue, and maybe he'll hear it, and maybe he'll grant my wish. And to me, I was like, but can't I just do it?
Yeah.
And that's the one thing with Christianity. Like they say somewhere in the Bible, that you are divine. You're made in God's image. You are divine energy, but through religion, and that's where the distinction lies. Christianity as a spirituality is very beautiful. It is love thy brother. But there's also Mary Magdalene, who was Jesus's wife, So they honored a divine feminine. They honored quite a few divine feminines. So Christianity as a spirituality is beautiful. Christianity as a religion is absolutely male dominated.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It is, oh no, you don't have a direct line to Jesus or to God. You have to go to church. Make sure you pay your dues too. Make sure you give to the offering plate. Then, I mean, if you can only give $5, maybe God will hear your prayers this week. You know, if you want to give maybe more like 50, maybe God will hear you a little bit more.
Oh, right.
Like,
yeah.
And so for pagans, it's like we cut out the middleman.
Yeah.
You know, we are divine energy. And if you work with deities, you have a direct, go in meditation and go talk to Aphrodite, honey. If you need some self-love stuff, go talk to Aphrodite, invoke her presence into you, connect with her, give her an offering, and then say, hey, I need self-love help right now. I'm not feeling beautiful today. And you don't have to sit there and, you know, like you're taking that energy within you. You are calling her to activate that energy within you. You are direct line. Yeah.
And what I think is really beautiful too is that in paganism, it's like you don't necessarily have to have an altar to your deities. You don't have to have a regulated practice. I this morning was just feeling like super just like and I was like, okay, I'm feeling very like physical. And that happens a lot when I'm on my period. Like, let's just call it what it is. Feeling very just like in the physical world, in my body, all that. Just there's nothing wrong with that. However, I crave that spiritual connection. And I was just like, oh man, I just got to get up. So I got up from my desk. I lit some candles behind me, a purple one with some psychic salt. I wonder where I got it from. And I just invited Persephone to come help me. And it was my offering to her was just lighting some candles and saying, thank you so much for being here. You know, will you help me just kind of open up some of these pathways today? Because I'm just really not feeling like in my spiritual self. And I mean, immediately I felt very centered, very like inspired and spiritual, like, and I just let those candles burn down. And I was just like, wow, I just feel so much love and validation in a way that years of being in a Christian church never brought me. You know.
And I think it's either in the so when I did start to really dive, I think I was in high school before I might have struggled. Like once people started calling me a witch, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be a witch, and I was reading books about paganism. I think we all, or at least I had that struggle. You know, like, oh my God, what if I go to hell? You know, like what if I go to hell? So I think I started diving down into the Bible a little bit more, but I was at least raised in a household where like I was taught about the Gnostic scriptures and the Dead Sea Scrolls and like all of that pretty young. You know, the lost books of the Bible. So I'm not sure if it was in one of those or the actual Bible where they say that nature is my church. And it's because I can't remember if that was what was left out of the Bible, or if it's in there and it's just one of those things that most Christians are like, we don't talk about that section because
that feels like a Gnostic gospel thing.
And that was the thing, like where you were saying you don't have to have an altar. You don't even have to have deities. I work with a lot of witches, you know, in my online coven that don't, they work with elements, you know, earth, air, fire, water. They go out and not worship trees, but basically, you know, walk in the woods. That is their church. That is their spiritual connection. And I think, I mean, we've talked about everything that mainstream religion is documenting as this, you know, crossover into paganism as to why people are doing it. It's the same things that we're bringing up here. You know, it's, you know, it is getting back into cycles and nature, reclaiming power for yourself. And especially in this day and age.
Yeah.
I'm tired of men. I'm not a man hater. I'm tired of the stupid shit men have done.
I know. It's time for the ladies to have a chance. Yeah. No, I get it. Well, and there's something like so beautiful and present about nature. Like, it's a really windy day right now. This time of year, it gets really windy here in Texas. And I was out before we sat down to record. And man, there was nothing as like cleansing in that moment as that wind was going to be, right? And like, there's been times when I've gone in the backyard and leaned up against my tree and like just had that moment of awareness that it's like, if I lean straight back against a tree, it's mimicking my spine and that connection with earth. Right. And so it's like, yeah, like you were saying, like my church is everywhere and anywhere.
Yeah. And even too, to kind of add to that, like we talked about the LGBTQ plus community and how accepted they feel. But there's also something about being accepted, period. We, pagans, witches, we don't care what you look like. We don't care how you identify. We don't care about your sexuality. We don't care. Like, in fact, however many things you can identify about yourself to connect with your inner power, like more power to that. We want you to figure out yourself. We want you to claim who you are, whoever that is.
Yeah.
And I think that's another absolutely beautiful thing about paganism is, I mentioned earlier, Mary Magdalene is actually one of my deities. And it was one that she had been calling to me for years. And I found myself almost extremely hesitant because I'm like, she's a Christian deity. Like, what on earth? And it's not until you kind of get to that point where you can shed that, and it's generally done within paganism. You are able to shed all of that and just accept and just believe. Whereas mainstream religions are telling you no.
Right.
No, you can't do that. No, you can't be that. No, you can't believe that. And over here in paganism, we're like, do what you want, fucking believe what you want, be who you want.
Yeah.
Like however you figure that out, that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Agreed. Oh, I love that. Great topic this week, my friend. That's awesome. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think it's going to help. I think it helps to, to talk about stuff like this, number one. But even like for beginner witches, any beginner witches who, or witch curious, witch curious people that happen to find this, like we've given them so much information without even having to teach about, you are the power, you are the magic, you know what I mean? Just all of that. And I think that this episode is definitely needed for what's happening in the world. A lot of people feel like they don't have the control, but a lot of it lies within you, and you have the power, you have the control over your beliefs and your spiritual path and your life. And I think that's a really powerful message, especially for this time as well. So I'm definitely here to spread. I'll shout it from the rooftops, and if there's any people that are like, but I'm coming from Christian guilt. Yeah. No, we've been there.
Yeah, it's all good.
Come on.
Yeah, come on, baby. Welcome home.
Welcome home. We have cookies. We have...
Yes. And we have pretty crystals.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the
and we'll
gateway.
show you how to put sigils in your makeup and all kinds of fun things. Yeah.
I love that. Yay!
So
we can be the witchy mamas. That's what we can do.
Yeah. Yes. I will be anyone's witchy mama. If you want a witchy mama, come on. Or the witchy aunties. Oh, We just need some midnight margaritas is all it is. I mean, it'll have some virgin margaritas, but still.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
So cool. Well, you want to pull a card for us today?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Fluster. All right. Nope. I already did that. So, okay. I'm going to pull one at random. We're going to go with this one. I love this. I love this question for this topic.
Oh, perfect.
What did your 13-year-old self think that you would be doing at the age you are now?
Wow. Okay. My 13-year-old self really thought I would probably be an elementary school teacher, but I'd be a teacher. I would definitely have like 2 or 3 kids. And yeah, probably doing a lot of like homemaking type things, because that was kind of what was set in front of me. Like I was going to have the teaching job that I went back to after I had my kids, because I was like going to be a stay-at-home mom forever, which I've done. I did the stay-at-home mom thing. Does not vibe for me, but it's cool. But yeah, and do like, I don't know, I was probably going to be in church every Sunday too.
Yeah. I can actually remember, I think I was 13 when I wrote a letter to the FBI headquarters requesting information about how to become an FBI profiler.
That's amazing.
And they sent me back a bunch of pamphlets because I wanted to catch serial killers.
Oh my gosh.
That's what I wanted to do with my life.
Wow.
So and I can say this too, I can remember sitting around with a friend of mine, you know, like, oh, one day we're going to be married and we're going to have kids and these are going to be the name of my kids, because the only reason I even remember this conversation is because I wanted a child named Rain. I wanted to name my child Rain.
Yeah.
But then I married someone with the last name of Moss, and I could not do that to that child.
No
Give
kidding.
them a name of Rain Moss.
Oh my gosh.
But that's the only conversation I can ever remember having about like getting married and having kids.
That's so wild.
And I was probably about 14 then. Yeah, it was all FBI. It was all
so cool.
And at some point, I think I was going to figure out who killed John F. Kennedy. We're just going to go back to that again, too.
It's cool. It's cool. We're going to have a whole episode on conspiracy theories. You know it.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely 100% living a very different life.
Oh, same. Yeah.
Than what I thought, like, when I was going to do when I was younger.
Yeah. I love that. What I wanted to do when I was younger is be an actor. Like I wanted to be in Hollywood, but I also was just like, no, probably like this is what's going to happen. So
yeah,
total like suburban mom stuff.
Yeah, no, I've been a stay-at-home mom and homeschooling mom before. Like
wow. I could not do the homeschooling thing. I'm like, you need to go to school. I love you. Bye.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, this is a great episode. Oh my gosh. If you love what you hear, please leave us a review on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you have a witchy story, a spooky story, a question, anything, send us an email at twowitchestalkingpod, P-O-D, @gmail.com, or find us on Instagram, Two Witches Talking. And we have a Patreon. It is a free Patreon where all of our videos are being posted. And who knows, we might drop like fun little surveys or things in there periodically, just to kind of keep it going over there. So
yeah, thank you for listening. Yeah, this was a great, I had so much fun with this one. I love This is why I wanted us to do a podcast.
Yes.
For stuff like this, because it makes me so happy. I love having intellectual, spiritual conversation.
Yes.
I love
so
it.
Aquarius of us. I'm just saying.
Oh my God, it is.
It is. It's awesome.
I love it.
I do too. All right, y'all. Thanks for listening, and we will see y'all next week.
Bye.